check it out. Hey YouTube, welcome to Check It Out Nunchuck Tutorials. Today we're going to look at Nunchuck lesson number 13, and I'm going to call it part 1 because I'm going to break this down into 2 different sections. It's basically the same technique. It's a little bit different, but it's a little bit of a variant from one to the other. So what we're going to get into now is a second wrist roll. And if you're not familiar with wrist rolls at all, please go back to the my playlist and check out the video that I did on the basic wrist roll. Also, on this particular technique, we're going to do it in combination with a downward figure 8 and an under the arm pass. So if you're not familiar with either of those techniques either, please go back and check that out, or work it, practice it, get familiar with it, because it'll make it a lot easier to do this technique. So the wrist roll that we're going to work today is the common one that you see a lot of people doing, and it's continuous, or it's an infinite wrist roll. I've heard it called different things, and it's based off a downward figure 8. This is one of those examples of why doing the basics like a downward figure 8 is really important as time goes on. This evolves directly out of a downward figure 8. So when we did the original wrist roll, and I'm just going to go over this briefly, you wrapped around the hand like this, came down into some different variations. And when I showed how to go under the arm like this, it wrapped back around the back of the hand. Well, what we're going to do is it's going to be the same type of motion, but it's just going to continue in front of us in a figure 8 continuous motion like this. So what I want to do is just start from this position here, drop that bottom stick, and you're going to come around and do your basic figure 8. And then as it's coming up, where it can go around your hand, it's going to come up around your hand like that. It's going to come around your hand like a figure 8 motion, and it's just going to keep wrapping back and forth like this. And then what we're going to do to finish this combination off is, as it's coming down this way, we're going to go to the other side by going underneath the shoulder here. And then you'll be able to drop that stick, come over, do your downward figure 8 like this. Do your wrist rolls, and go up underneath your arm. And it's just continuous or infinite. You could do this as long as your arms will hold out in a continuous motion. So we're going to do a downward figure 8. Go right into your wrist roll. Downward figure 8. Wrist roll. Like I said in the beginning of this video, it's just a variation of a downward figure 8, wrapping it around your wrist, keep it in a continuous motion. But you have to learn the basic part of it. And if you neglect to just learn the basic sections of this, then you're going to be flopping these things around, kind of like what I was doing with my left hand, because I'm not as good in my left hand as I used to be. So take your time, start with your downward figure 8, understand that motion. It's one of the things that I haven't really stressed so much is how to internalize the movements. And that comes through a lot of practice, I can do them, the movements, holding a conversation, moving around and everything, because I've over the years internalized them. They're a part of me, pretty much. So it's more than just muscle memory. Internalization goes a little bit deeper than that. So learn this basic downward figure eight. When you understand that completely, then it makes a lot more sense to add the wrist rolls and the combinations that go with it. Now, we're only going with the one combination right now. And if you're not familiar with any of my other videos, please check out the playlist, because I have other videos that show different combinations from different techniques that do apply to this. But the whole purpose of this video was just to introduce you to this particular wrist roll right here. And one thing I do want to touch on as well, we talked about chain in a couple of my videos, and about the nunchucks themselves. When I'm doing wrist rolls and things, I do like this type a little bit better. These are a little bit heavier. I've had these for a very long time, and they're tapered down on the end, and the balance on them is a little bit different than the other ones that I have in my other videos. And when I'm doing the wrist rolls with the weight plus the taper, that balance is really, really nice. The other thing that I've always talked about was the length of the chain. Basically, just wrapping around to the edges of your hands like this. If it's too short, it's going to be hard to get it around your hand. And if it's too long, they're going to flop around when you're trying to do it. Or if the nunchucks are too light, as you're trying to do a wrist roll, if you have nunchucks that are too light and a chain that's too long, they're going to flop around a little bit, and it's going to be harder to control them. One of the things that I've noticed with brand new nunchucks when people buy them, and even some that I've bought, is the chain comes too long or the rope's it's just not the right length. So what do? There are ways to fix that and to adjust it. And I mean, you can cut the chain, put it back. You can cut the rope and put it back. There's different ways to be able to make it fit your hand better. And I may go into that and show something about that in a future video. But for now, just work this infinite figure eight pattern. Work it with the downward figure eight. Switch over to the under the arm and just keep that going. And if you're experienced with the nunchucks and you've been following my videos, then you know a lot of the other techniques that can come from that. Going with the motion, experiment, see how it feels. Be safe, have fun, and we will see you on the next one. Hey YouTube, welcome back to what the hell's my channel?
Check it out.
Yeah, shit.
Check it out.